Ever scroll through the news and just feel that like familiar knot in your stomach? Another day, another headline about the Middle East. It can feel impossible to keep up with.
Absolutely.
So today we're doing what we do best, a deep dive. This time, zeroing in on the rising tension between Israel and Hezbollah. We're going to try to unpack why it matters this time.
Right.
Our source material. Excerpts from, get this, a Japanese text document detailing some recent events that are, well, they're really something. Okay, so big picture. Israel just launched airstrikes in Beirut.
Yeah.
But not just Beirut, right? A suburb of Beirut. And they targeted and killed a Hezbollah commander. That detailed that. It was a suburb. It adds this whole other layer, doesn't it? Like how surgical this operation was.
It definitely raises questions. And to understand the gravity of it, we need to understand who Hezbollah is. This isn't some small, isolated group. They are a powerful force in Lebanon, politically, militarily, you name it. They've got their hands in everything. They control territory. They have a scary amount of firepower. And they have a long history of clashing with Israel.
Decades, right?
Decades. So from Israel's perspective, this is a constant threat they're dealing with.
And the way they went about it, the source says they used multiple missiles aimed at a basement. I mean, the precision alone is...
Exactly. This was targeted. This wasn't just a let's send a message kind of thing. This was precise, calculated. It told you they had intel, they had a plan, and they went for it.
And they were successful, at least to some degree. Lebanese officials are reporting 31 casualties.
Right. And that number is, I mean, it's important, but we always have to remember where it's coming from and take it with a grain of salt. There's always another side to every story, especially in a conflict like this.
Absolutely. And of course, Israel maintains that the airstrike was justified, saying this Hezbollah commander was planning a major attack, something similar to what we saw with Hamas last year.
Right.
Which, speaking of Hamas, I think it's worth taking a second to differentiate, right? Because people hear Hamas, they hear conflict with Israel. But how does Hezbollah fit into that whole thing?
It's tricky. And honestly, people get them confused all the time. They both have beef with Israel, yeah, but their goals and their playing fields are different. Hamas is laser-focused on the Palestinian territories. Gaza, the West Bank, their whole thing is about that land. Hezbollah, they're operating mainly out of Lebanon, and their goals are tied into this whole web of regional politics and allegiances that are way more complex.
It's layers on layers with this stuff, isn't it? And this quote from the Israeli defense minister, it's something else. Straight from his social media, he says, and I quote, "There's no safe haven for our enemies." And he vows to continue these attacks. It doesn't sound like they're backing down anytime soon.
Nope, not at all. And honestly, that kind of statement from a high-ranking official, it's a power move. It's meant to send a message, but it's raising eyebrows for sure. Yeah. It suggests they're willing to double down, even if it means more violence, even if the international community isn't thrilled about it.
And the U.S. especially, right? They've always got this tightrope to walk.
Always. On one hand, they've come out and backed Israel's right to defend itself, which, fair. But you can tell there's this underlying concern that this could become a much bigger fire. And it's interesting, the U.S. official who made their statement, they actually have a background in hostage negotiations.
Wow.
Which tells you something about how they view the situation, you know. Like, this is delicate. And the biggest thing for me is this. Lebanon is already a powder keg. You've got this crushing economic crisis, political instability, the list goes on and on. So how does this escalation impact a country that's already hanging by a thread? That's the question we should all be asking.
Because it could go a lot of different ways.
Exactly.